In my last Metroid video, I was really concerned about what the old Metroid games were saying about what Metroid Dread could be. Well, I really wish I dropped this video before Dread Returns, because Samus Returns set up Dread perfectly. Welcome back, Classy Crew, to another Hey Gia review. Hey, that rhymes. I like that. So we're going to be talking about Metroid Samus Returns, its remake that came on 3DS. Now, unfortunately, I was never able to play the original on Game Boy, and I don't know if I want to play it. A little bit of curiosity is I should probably play it, but I know it can't be anywhere close as good considering the limitations of the Game Boy. But hey, that's a video for another day. So last month, I was supposed to do a Metroid Marathon Mania thing, and that got destroyed because I lost an organ. Everything's okay though. So I wasn't able to get this video out before Metroid Dread release, and I haven't done Super Metroid or Fusion. But anyways, I've been playing Metroid Dread, and this video is more about talking about, I guess, the comparisons of what I saw in Samus Returns that translated into Dread, which I'm really happy to see what they actually moved over. But it's also a good chance for me to finally give my proper review of Samus Returns, because this is my second time playing through the game. I played it at launch originally all those years ago, and now I'm revisiting it with a context of all the other Metroid games and having let the game stew a bit. We were quite we're always thirst for Metroid games, so when Samus Returns, I just took it in for all it was. But now there's I've had the time to reflect on it. I've had the time to play a new fleshed out Metroid game through Dread, and I have to say Metroid Samus Returns is a little bit of an off-balance game. Where it really shines is in its gameplay, and I'm going to keep praising its gameplay, because when you look at the old ones like Metroid Zero Mission, Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, I can't speak so much about Metroid Fusion because it's been a while, but the other two, the controls and the movement of Samus is a little bit slower, and I think that is, while both intentional and also a little bit of, no, it's definitely just intentional. There was no limitation of the platform. You had fast games back then. I think that was just for the atmospheric design direction. But in Samus Returns, Samus moves so fast and so fluid. It's only second to Metroid Dread, where they perfected that formula and made her even more crazy fluid and fun to play with. So going from Zero Mission to Samus Returns, the first thing was oh my god, this feels so much better. Samus is actually fluid, she moves everything. And then when you play Metroid Dread, you're just oh my god, she's just slipping all over the place in a good way. So love the movement, love the gameplay. Where the game is, I think, weaker than the other entries in the series, it's the story. And maybe it's because this game was designed originally for the Game Boy, so the story wasn't intended to pack too much. But I tried to flesh it out of okay, let's really dive into, the fact that we're going to a planet and exterminate the Metroid. And no matter how many ways I cut it, it's just freaking genocide. There's no redemption to the story. It's not Samus goes through this, there's this villain, there's this. You just go to a planet to commit genocide. You are there with one mission, and there's no plot twist. You're just there. Oh, by the way, this is a completely spoiler filled video, so if you haven't played it, go play it before you watch this. You just go to this planet that's not even yours. It's completely inhabited by Metroids, and you're hey, I'm gonna wipe you out because I don't like you. And there we go. Now, to be fair, it kind of does tie Zero Mission and Super Metroid, and also what I'm not done Metroid Dread yet, but what I'm learning in Metroid Dread, there are some it ties the universe of Metroid very well. But in terms of a player jumping into this game, the only thing you're going to expect is just slaughter everything that moves and then get out. That's all you're doing. So yeah, story is not the most exciting, but hey, that's not always the highlight of these games. The fact that it's fun is enough for me. And the fact that I can run around this place, get my power-ups, discover new things, fight new bosses, that's really all I need from a Metroid game. Speaking of bosses, there aren't too many to speak of. You're essentially going to be fighting 5 different variants of Metroids, and then there's pretty much 3 non-Metroid bosses. So let's talk about the Metroids. They are all, you're going to fight them, you fight them multiple times, and that's not a bad thing. I never felt like the Metroids were grindy. I always had a lot of fun kind of hunting them down and discovering, oh, is this going to be the next evolution of a Metroid, or am I going to be fighting the old one? And I love that the game, throughout the game, like even in the final sections, you might still be like fighting the original versions of the Metroids or their first evolution. So you never know what you're going to get behind those doors. You just know that the deeper you go into this world, you're eventually going to run into more and more evolution. All of the fights elevate kind of your requirement of skill, so you gotta learn to use more and more of your abilities to get around them. And one thing I did not speak about gameplay is the whole fact that they added this whole arm of consent. So if a monster gets too close to you, you just tap this like button and it goes, get away from me. It's also called a counter, but I prefer calling it the arm of consent. So that triggers pretty much anytime a monster is close to you and you see like the little like yellow thing, or you hear the sound cue, you smash that button and you go into a cool like little animation which opens up the enemy to pretty much be blasted. If it's a common enemy, they're pretty much dead after you arm of consent them. But if it's a boss, you got like a cool animation where you can really punish them. And the first time I played it, I don't think I really appreciated what that could do in a boss fight. I was just focusing on like missiling or like blasting the bosses, because that's just how I roll. But this time around, I noticed more the triggering points in the boss animations. I was like, oh, I can do like a counter here. I can do a counter here. And that often led to some really cool visuals and opportunities to really feel like you're punishing. And as much as I hate to, you know, put Monster Hunter in every video I do now, there is a similarity of, it's like when you mount a monster in Monster Hunter and you're punishing it. It's almost like that, but it's in a Metroid universe. All right, we'll keep Monster Hunter out of this video. Other bosses, so there was Arachnus, which was like an early boss, which he wasn't too like iconic, just the perfect like little flavor boss. I really don't have much to say about that. The other two, though, there was something to discuss. So the Diggernaut, which I think was a new boss added specifically for the remake, is this massive robot that seems to like clean this planet. I have no idea what the story of this bot is, but you got like a whole chase sequence, which is one of the more iconic moments of this game, which was terrifying the first time. And the second time, I'm like, all right, let's see if I can make it through this without dying. I couldn't. I died a lot of times. And then there's the Diggernaut boss fight itself, which is really cool because it's very like methodical of like, oh, you need to use this upgrade here. Oh, you need to use this upgrade here. It's not just dodge, dodge, blast, blast. It's dodge, dodge, use this mechanic, use this mechanic, use this mechanic. And in Metroidvania type boss fights, I really like it when a boss forces you to like learn the pattern and then learn how to exploit it using different abilities. And the more abilities you get to use on a boss fight, just the better it is, in my opinion. And then the final boss, when you're about to escape, you get, of course, Samus's arch nemesis, Ridley. And that boss fight is, I think, the perfect send-off. I know that there was a lot of criticism around this boss fight being kind of, because I don't think this was in the original either, and some people are like, why is this here? This doesn't belong here. It's completely fan service. Maybe it is, and honestly, I really liked it. Like, it was a pretty epic fight. You got like this huge arena to fight him in. You got some cool music, and there's so many phases to the fight, and he just gets more and more intense. It was just fun. Like, I keep coming back to the word fun because as much as I want to criticize this game, it just delivers in fun. It's fun to play. It's fun to do the counters. The bosses are fun. Exploring is fun. Just everything about this game is fun. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about is the new weapons that were notable to me that weren't necessarily in Zero Mission or the other games that I can remember easily. We got Scan Pulse, which is awesome if you are taking the time to actually search everything. And I know those of you who have watched my streams were like, really, Jay? You're going to talk about the Scan Pulse? Because I was terrible at Scan Pulsing. Despite me not being great on stream to Scan Pulse, I can absolutely say I love Scan Pulse. And if I was chilling more with the game off stream, I would be Scan Pulsing maybe a little bit more consciously. But when I'm like playing, trying to get somewhere, talking with chat, just kind of like casually having fun socially, I'm not so focused on Scan Pulsing. But the fact that you can scan an area, reveal the map, and find the secrets, like that's great, especially for a completionist. And I still don't know if I can call myself a completionist. I have like one, maybe two videos on this channel where I completed. Then you have the lightning armor, which makes you invincible for a certain amount of time. When you take damage, it eats up your energy. That's really cool. I like how you have to use it to get through like these like poisonous tendril kind of plants. Phase drift is super awesome, especially for the blocks that always like instantly disintegrate when you go on them. In fact, you can freeze time to get through that, or slow down time. Love that. And then finally, the final like upgrade, which is your little baby Metroid, which just goes around and kills all the blocks. I honestly forgot that's about that power up from my first playthrough, and the second one I was like, how do I get through all these blocks? And when I found the baby Metroid again, I was like, that's right, you need this to like complete everything, and you have to go through everything, the map again, to unlock all the other upgrades. And it's just such a cool little upgrade that like just the flavor of it, like the fact that you have like a little baby Metroid that now follows you, and when you get close to it, it's just like jump jump jump. It's adorable, it's cute, and it really makes me wish I got that little Metroid amiibo that came out with this game, but I didn't, and now it's like $200 wherever you go. So maybe one day they'll reprint them, I'll pick them up then. This is why I picked up the Metroid Dread amiibo, which you can probably see back there somewhere, so that I wouldn't regret that again. Otherwise, Metroid 2 Samus Returns on the 3DS, fun little game. If you really like Dread, I think you're gonna love Samus Returns. It has a little bit less smoothness than Dread, but when you're comparing it to all the other 2D Metroid, it is the closest thing to Dread in terms of movement, and it's just a fun game to play. So if you're all up for moving around, arm of consenting some baddies and committing genocide on Metroids, I really suggest Metroid Samus Returns. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. It might be the Metroid Dread review. And until next time, keep it classy. Do 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 do. Subscribe.